Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm CT, and here's the gang. Welcome to the Overland Bonfire, a show, an irreverent little show where we talk about overlanding and camping and gear and that kind of stuff. So, welcome.
Mostly food. Yeah. Mostly eating.
And
Talk
often
mostly about
devolves into
eating.
food. Yes.
Maybe if we're lucky today, we'll avoid the F word
I doubt it.
and the other F word.
One should be easy. One should be tough.
Yeah, which one? It remains to be seen. So today we're going to talk about something that it pops up a lot, kind of in social media, or mostly social media, where people feel the need to express their opinion all the time. I don't think anybody's ever walked up to me in person and been like, "Hey, what's the difference?" But anyway, we're going to talk about overlanding versus off-roading. I think some people kind of think, they're one and the same, but definition wise, and at least like in practice, I think people that are partaking are having some very different activities. So we'll talk about our experience with the two, kind of our thoughts on the difference between them. And then, as always, this is just our opinion. So maybe you're an overlander that off-roads or an off-road that overlands or some other combination thereof. So Matt, I know you have got some legit off-roading experience. Some things back in the day that had nothing to do with overlanding.
No, for sure. A lot of nothing to do with overlanding, yeah.
So do you want to take us off and kind of like your thoughts on what separates the two, or any really good stories about?
I mean, I think internet trolls really should be the topic, but
Yeah.
I mean, we should save that for another one because been recently reading some internet troll stuff where I was just like, wow, you guys got nothing to do.
I'll take a jab here in a few minutes because I saw one earlier where I had to be like, log into my personal account.
Have you got to the episode of What We Do in the Shadows where there's an internet troll?
No, but
Okay, all right. I won't spoil that for you.
What? I don't even know what we're talking about. Help me out.
Oh,
Somebody
it's a show. It's like a fake documentary TV show about vampires.
But it's they're like all housemates in like the modern world, but like one of them's been a vampire since like the 1600s and stuff.
Okay, so what's it called?
What We Do in the Shadows. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, I'm sorry. So we're talking about off-roading.
Yeah.
So what we want random I mean,
well, I know you've got some good stories, so
feel
free.
I don't know if I have any good ones, but I for sure.
How about tell us about your experience with off-roading for listeners that may not know?
Yeah, so I mean, I start when the kids were little. It was that's kind of what we were doing. Maybe even before the kids were around. And we've sort of developed into more vehicle-supported travel stuff. Later as the kids got older, and I think walking. Because my wife has walked like back when Teleco was open. She's walked all of Teleco because you'd be doing something stupid and she's like, geez, I'm not doing that with a baby and two kids in the car. So she'd carry the baby and the two kids would follow her up whatever dumb thing I was.
So crazy.
Yeah, just whatever, something stupid, right? That the biggest thing for me is I carried a lot of spare parts. The one thing I will say that I think a lot of people don't know that kind of driving in a vehicle teaches you one, where the limits are to a lot of things. Like, you'd really be surprised what will hold and what won't hold. I mean, like what will keep you on your wheels and what won't.
Right foot strategy, one I've heard you call.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what you can do with little sense and a heavy right foot is pretty amazing, honestly. And then where the fuses are in vehicles, really, that's where I don't mean the electrical fuses, but vehicles have drivetrain fuses. That it happens to be the one piece that typically grenades when you're going to do something. Like, at a Jeep Cherokee that blew rear yokes. Like, I would just keep 3 rear yokes packed in the truck all the time and the tools to change them. If I was going to do something dumb, it would blow your rear yoke before it would do anything.
Right. Yeah.
So
we've talked about engineered failure points.
I mean, and I think that's honestly kind of learning that. It's kind of interesting because then hey, these are the probable parts.
Right.
We used to ride with some guys that would could change axles on a 35, on a Dana 35, like at lunch in 30 minutes. Like, they had just grenaded enough of them, and they just they were cheap, and they at that point hadn't upgraded and weren't necessarily running giant tires or anything, but just would get a little hard on it. And so I think that's interesting. I think mechanically you learn to do a lot of things. And I said, you learn to do it fairly quickly, and in the middle of nowhere. We've done everything from, welding steering linkage back together to get out of the woods with, heavy jumper cables and a couple batteries.
Yeah.
You learn a lot of ingenuity quick, and I think the interesting thing for me is you learn a lot of recovery ingenuity. Like you learn things that you don't, because when you're when you're sort of doing, quote, overlanding or vehicle supported travel stuff, you're just not in the scenario where you need to figure this out because you got to get it back on its wheels, because that scenario doesn't happen where,
Right.
Or at
you
least
know
not
if,
very often.
right, very
Yeah.
very rarely, right? So it's like that gives you the sort of heavier crawling kind of stuff gives you the opportunity to to you know set one back on its wheels on a fairly regular basis.
Yeah.
And not that we would flop one every time out, but it wasn't uncommon if you had 5 to 10 rigs in a group to flop one every 3 times you were out.
Yeah.
Stay on one side or lay it over, or just get it stuck or get it,
Right.
hemmed up on a rock that it was standing up and it was going to flop. So you had to figure out how to manage that. You just learn a lot of things. Like, you learn how strong door jams are.
Right.
Like you can literally stick a strap, and God, the recovery trolls are going to come after me for this, I'm sure. But, you flop one over, or you've got one that's laying on its side really hard. If you can crack the door and shut the door on a strap, just in the where it's stitched back, throw it across the roof.
Yeah.
A lot of times you'll hold it on its wheels the whole time, or flip it right back over.
Yeah.
If you've had the opportunity, and do little to no damage to it.
Yeah.
That, and you also learn to preemptive strike a lot of things, like, when we rode with Jason, MSO a lot, like I would be the first one, like that's where like
I was gonna say
the strap bags and stuff came from, because I was just used to, we're probably going to need this, hook it up, hang it on my bumper, and it's just going to be there because let's say there's a 30% chance I'm going to need it. Well, then you have to dig it out, you have to find it, you have to hook it up while you're in a bad situation. Well, shoot, I'd just rather, okay, I'm about to put it in a bad situation. Let's hook it to the D-ring we think we're going to need it on, the side of the vehicle we think we're going to need it on. Let's put it in the bag and get it out. Or I would throw it inside the cab with me.
Yeah.
And then I could just pitch it out the window.
I was going to say, I remember in New Hampshire in the 80, you hooked up the recovery strap to the D-ring, ran it up the hood in the door.
Yep.
You got stuck. It was that trail/road.
Yeah.
It was just like a creek.
Yep.
And you literally kind of just like got out of your seat, got a hold of it, chucked it up on the bank.
Right, so somebody could
They
grab
hooked
it.
you up, yeah.
And snatch you out. Yeah, no, I mean, so I think I learned a lot. I learned a lot of stuff then. And the other thing that does is, and if you've got a vehicle that you don't really care about, like at that point it was, XJs, which were cheap, parts were cheap. If you trashed one, I didn't feel too bad about it. I'd have backup parts and backup everything at home.
Yeah.
So it wasn't so I learned a lot of driving technique doing that. I learned a lot of, like I said, sort of preemptive strike and recovery technique, doing that kind of stuff, and what works and doesn't work. And, a lot of the old crawler guys, man, they knew how to get shit to work. Like, you'd flop it over at times and even just dumb stuff like, you high center something, and again, this is an internet troll one, but I've absolutely stuck a high lift jack in my Reese receiver, nothing in it. Jack the truck up, basically made myself a lifting winch, is what you would call that, where you basically jack the truck up and then just knock the truck off of whatever it was high centered on, let the jack fall over as you went.
Yeah.
You just learned a lot of like kind of random tricks like that, and I don't know, it was a great place to learn stuff. And it also then I don't, when I look at something, I'm like, oh, that doesn't worry me. Like, oh, that's gonna be rough, but we can get through that. Here's what we'd have to do if we got stuck here. Here's what we have to do if we get stuck there. You just, there's so many things that you pick up doing that kind of stuff that I think is valuable, or having people around that are valuable. The other thing that's handy too, like traveling with Rodney was pretty slick because, I've, excuse me, I've done some trips with Rodney that were really pretty mild, realistically, but like in moving like big trees and crap out of the way, where Rodney rigs a lot, right? Because they do rescue work in Florida from everything from sailboats that are stuck in hurricanes and people on them to, trapped in bridges and shit. Like he does all kinds of
Yeah, yeah.
crazy stuff. To getting vehicles and semis out of the way. So like he's just been around a lot of that rigging. So like he's really quick to, oh, we should do this and hook this here and put 2 of these over there and we need 3 straps, and like he can map out that rigging really quickly.
Yeah.
So when you get the opportunity to be around, and even if you don't do anything, like the learning from, like, even if you don't go further on the trail, like we've moved trees and just been like, all right, we're gonna turn back,
Yeah.
like, or, oh, we're not gonna fit through the next corner, so let's just turn back. But the education you get just from moving that tree is pretty interesting. Like
Yeah.
I think it has a lot of value to it that most people don't realize. And there's probably some turmoil between the two groups, but like I said, I think you learn a lot
Yeah.
from both, honestly.
Yeah, I think that kind of my point, like I always make the designation, and I know part of this is just my perception. When we lived in Tennessee, literally the road in front of our house was kind of the road that people would come from down south to go up to Kentucky for, like the bounce buggies and the
Yeah.
trailer queens and stuff. So we saw a lot of big like JKs, XJ, stuff
Yeah.
like that were on a trailer because they literally couldn't be on the road.
Yeah, or I mean,
It would be wobbly.
mine were all road legal, but I just didn't know if they were coming home.
Right,
If
right,
they were
yeah.
gonna be drivable coming home, so they trailered everywhere.
Yeah, and I think about, daily driver, even if it's a capable daily driver, for overlanding, and kind of leaning back into that, and obviously we have like off highway vehicles. I've never done the UTV thing. We used to have ATVs back in the day, and we get those in some pretty gnarly spots. Usually where trucks just wouldn't fit for width reasons. But I always go back for overlanding when the overlanding versus off-roading pops up, and look at the Australians, where they have a lot of rules and a lot of laws about what they can do to modify vehicles.
Yeah.
Everything from like one of the big ones, from what I understand, is like tires sticking out past the fenders. Like a certain amount of lift in it. They do it based on like tire height or something like that. But they take trucks through absolutely
Crazy stuff.
crazy, like the washes is what always gets me,
Yeah.
where it's just like, decent little road.
Yeah.
4-wheel drive would probably be handy, and then you come around a curve and there's a
in the
hole
water.
that you could put an RV in,
Yeah.
and walk 10 feet away and not see the RV,
Right.
and they go
Yeah.
right back up.
Yeah.
And it's in these V-dub trucks and Toyotas and stuff like that that are generally kind of unassuming.
Yeah, no, I mean, think about how well a vehicle is really built. I mean, like you think about, you know, old solid axle cars and stuff that, like, it 300-ish horsepower, you stomp on them and,
Yeah.
you can run them sideways all over the place and black smoke and all kinds of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I don't know, they just take way bigger beating than you think they will.
Yeah.
As long as you're not afraid of a little bit of body damage.
Now, you brought this up, and I'm glad you did, because you know whose feelings I don't care about? Trolls. Sorry I didn't give you time to answer. That was a dramatic pause. Recently, I'll try to remain vague here. I don't want to target anybody, any of our Brog Nation folks, to like go after them. But saw where somebody had made a post about overlanding versus off-roading, and then like 4 or 5 days later, somebody who I do not know came back in and was like, "Well, I think that's why the definition should include crossing international borders." And that is something that I see sometimes. That is usually from people that are choosing for their overland journey to go that direction. But then I think about like how big our country is. And, you
Yeah.
could go out west. I think about people like Chris Shantz, John Burt, that have spent an incredible amount of time in the backcountry inside the 48 states, not even
Right.
heading up
I
to
mean,
Alaska.
if they were in Europe, they would have crossed 49 international borders.
Yeah,
in the first
exactly.
week.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So that is something that's always a bit irksome to me, and maybe I'm a big fan of the grammatically incorrect phrase "run what you brung." So you can overland in almost anything,
Yeah.
and I feel like you can find a place to overland almost anywhere. Some of my favorite trips have been up in like Vermont and New Hampshire, which is not what usually comes to mind. But
Yeah.
we've had beautiful
I-
campsites.
100%.
Yeah, challenging trails. I mean,
100%.
Ver-
Most entertaining times.
yeah, Vermont has some
Probably.
roads that they will draw you in as a nice drive through the green
And then
landscape.
turn into the most fun you've ever had.
Yeah, and then suddenly there's
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
a creek goes, I'm gonna cut that road in two.
Yeah.
And there you go. So yeah, that's something I always think kind of, like maybe that's just their perception. Did they get their rig and just like close their eyes until they hit the border in Texas? I don't know.
I don't know either. I mean, I I don't know. It's all semantics, so I could give a
Yeah,
crap less what we call
exactly.
it, right? I mean, it's all about, for me, it's all about going out and doing stuff, learning things. I like to learn stuff and doing stuff that's difficult, and I like to learn from people that are good at things.
Yeah.
Hopefully that are smarter than me about stuff. And uh, so, I mean, if I'm traveling with a group, that's part of it for me. And uh, like I said, and I just, whatever you want to call it. I don't care if you call it car camping. I don't care.
Yeah.
Adventure travel, vehicle supported travel, overlanding. It's all the same stuff, different pile. Honestly,
Yeah.
like I said, the only difference for me for like in the pure off-roading project is, again, for me, my truck's left on a trailer, came home on a trailer.
Yeah. Or if you're overlanding and you're frequently not able to drive it back, you might want to reconsider how you're doing what you're doing.
Well, or you need to build a vehicle that does that. I mean,
Yeah.
Derek, Derek from Southeast Overland. I mean, he's got a fucking banging Tacoma that he puts in the woods hard and
Yeah.
and limps it home or drives it home or whatever. I mean, they're out at King of the Hammers
Yeah,
right now with
right
a
now.
ride. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's an FJ Cruiser, I think,
Ish.
theoretically.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Was
much
an
FJ Cruiser's left in the FJ Cruiser
Right.
at this
But
point.
right. But no, I mean, but that's somebody who does a lot of what I would define as off-roading in a vehicle that he for the most part drives home with.
Yeah.
And is a good enough mechanic that, if he breaks it, he can probably get it home. If he, I mean, you can check a lot of boxes on that front, honestly. Like, because that's one of the things. If you're going to do do dumb stuff, you got to be willing to pay the dumb price.
Yeah. I always enjoy
And-
seeing the application of ratchet straps to independent front suspensions.
Yeah.
I've seen some really interesting, like,
Yeah.
what was the minimal number of wraps to keep this thing together? You know?
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah.
No, but it's the ingenuity is neat. I mean, I honestly,
Yeah.
and I see people all the time commenting. Like I said, I was watching somebody comment on lifting a vehicle with a high lift jack, which is kind of, and the whole, all kinds of people were like, "Oh, it's a terrible idea, and this is it's not safe." And I'm like, shit, I don't know, man. If you had to get it out and you were there, like
freezing to death is also not safe.
Right. I mean, like, I mean, I certainly don't know. I don't know the situation he was in that he was using it in, but
Yeah.
in a given situation, there's a pretty good chance I'd have done the same thing. I think they were actually using the soft shackle hooked onto something, and I was like, hey, I mean, we've done stuff like that,
Yeah.
where, similar to my, talking about my flopping a high lift jack over to get, high off being high centered. Well, I mean, there weren't a whole lot of options. I couldn't go backwards. I had nobody in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was just the easiest way
Yeah.
to get there. And I, at no point did I, it wasn't even a safety third scenario for me. Like nobody's in the way of getting hurt. And a lot of those things, like if it doesn't work, it just falls back to where it was. And as long as you've got a good exit strategy,
Yeah.
that's the other thing. If you're going to do dumb stuff, make sure you know where the rocks are and you've got a path to run like hell when it goes sideways or jump off. I mean,
Be underneath the car at the time.
Well, I mean, a number of times I've hung off of Gabby's truck.
Yeah.
I mean, I've hung off the side door of Gabby's truck knowing that if shit goes sideways, I'm jumping off.
Yeah.
But, it stood up just enough that I'm like, oh, let me jump on this rocker roll and see if I can't offset some of give him a little ballast to just get over this spot, or whatever.
And you talked about, you hit on something that we touched about thematically a lot, like doing difficult things. And yeah, I think that, if somebody's overlanding and they choose to stick to the gravel roads and they're out there just to see pretty places and cool things, the convenience and comfort factor, awesome.
Right. 100%.
And if somebody, and I'm just using this example, they're like, what can this Subaru Outback do?
Right.
And they get it up on, get a wheel up in the air a good ways. Awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
Or can I change the oil on this van without a lift? Yeah.
yeah.
Isn't that what you came out to the woods to do in the first place?
I mean, not
have an adventure.
I mean, for me, yes. I mean, for a lot of people that, like Rick said, for a lot of people, the adventure is driving and seeing the scenery and enjoying the camping and that stuff. And, for me, a lot of times it's, shit, can I get up there? Huh.
Yeah.
I wonder how I could do that. I wonder how long it's going to take.
I enjoy the emotional roller coaster of the journey sometimes.
100%.
I've been on a few, like, why am I here? I regret every decision that led me to this point on Earth.
Right.
I mean, I can tell you the trail outside of Hot Springs, North Carolina, Shad Road. Guys, the The route that goes this way is very easy. The route that goes this way when heading south is not. It was a very long 10 miles by myself. If I got out once, I got out 60 times, But I got out and was like, patted the Tacoma on the hood and was like, holy crap, we're going home. Like,
And I will say, I get out a lot. I get out and look. Like, especially if I'm by myself. But even in a group, man, I'll stop, get out.
Yeah.
Walk 30 feet. Okay, yeah, no, I'm good. All right, let's see what the next 30 feet. I could get out of here backwards if I had to, or whatever. Or I'll walk to the top and be like, yeah, okay, I think if I drop a tire here and put something there, and map out a route for the truck. If I can bounce off of this and bounce off of that, and I could hit that one maybe, and she's gonna stand up a little here, but I think it'll sit back down when the back wheel hits this. And knowing where the back wheel is gonna be.
Yeah.
Or knowing where, because I think that's important. I mean, I teach my kids to, when my oldest daughter's driving now, it's like I put her in the ditch all the time. Like she'd be in an 80, and I'd lay that, all right, take her right to the edge of the road and have her fall off.
Yeah.
Take her to the edge of the road and have her fall off. Now put it back on the road.
Yeah.
Now fall it off the road. You need to know where that right front tire is.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to feel it when it flops off the edge of the road, pop it back on.
Yeah.
This is not a big deal. This is
what it feels like. Because some people, you get one and it starts pulling you over.
Yeah.
Because there's a point where just let it go.
Yeah.
Then take it back.
Right. Yeah.
That sensation freaks people out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just any of that where you're just like, hey, it's okay. This is what it's going to feel like. Put it, or we be in pasture, at the house. I'm like, okay, put the right front tire on that rock.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't necessarily have to be a big rock. It's just, I want you to know where the right front tire is, or the left front tire, or the left rear tire, or, hit this with both right side tires.
Yeah.
Why are we hitting that with both right side tires? Because the middle part of the car is going to get the most, is the most breakable section of the car. Worst thing you're going to do here, we may bust up a body panel, but we're going to get it home.
Yeah.
You break something here, we're in real trouble. You get a transfer case, or you take out a drive shaft. This is an issue. This isn't. This is a dent. We'll live through a dent.
I think that's another.
Your gas can open all over the trail. That would also be bad.
Yeah. Knowing like the weak points, I had a buddy that had what year was that? Like a 2001 or 2 Rover. And he knew that the lowest point on the bottom of the vehicle was right underneath, like the in line of the passenger seat.
Yeah.
The thing for me with the ZR2 is the rear suspension. Love the Multimatics on that thing, but the rear suspension's on the inside of the frame rails, and you can get bash plates for them and stuff. But I'd rather just not bash the suspension. So
right, yeah.
Where in the Tacoma, I'd skirt the edge of a big rock, with the inside of a tire. Not so much with the ZR2. And Matt, you said something earlier, that like. Knowing what you're capable of, I think it's progression. People that are overlanding now, and they're sticking to, kind of like the roads, whether it be back roads, may one day be off-roading, but it's all semantics,
Yeah.
As long as you're having a good time, call it whatever.
Like, for me, what separates it. It's not overlanding versus off-roading. It's like just the type of people. Are they there for the camping and the pretty views, or are they there because they want to go on a hard trail and send it and see if they can get up?
Yeah, like the bounce buggy
guys.
They go home at the end of the day, or they go to the Motel 6. Like a lot of times they may not necessarily be, like continuing on in the bounce buggy.
Yeah.
And you think I think about this too, like,
and those would be fun too. I mean, I watch some of that stuff. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
Some of those like high wall climbs are just
crazy, right?
Like, did gravity not clock in today?
Right. Like, nobody paid the gravity bill. What the hell?
Yeah.
How did you do that? Yeah. Or the ones they save. Those are my favorite.
Oh.
Like the ones that it's like, oh, and he saves it. I'm like, that dude's awesome.
Like, pulling monster truck tricks,
Yeah, you're just like, how did he land and go back?
I know, it's great. I know airplanes work that way.
Right.
But the problem for airplanes is the ground. And he was on the ground the whole time.
Yeah, no, anyway, I can appreciate somebody who drives with skill. No matter what they're doing, honestly. But the challenge is I enjoy the challenge, and there are times when I just enjoy booming around too. But
I think about like somebody with an overland rig, they're pulling a turtleback trailer and they're parking it somewhere, and then going and hitting a trail and coming back to the base station. How is that different from somebody who like trailered in a vehicle, with maybe an RV setup, and then they run the vehicle out and back? It's just
Yeah.
You end up kind of in the same capability in the lot.
I don't know. Arguably, that's worse because then if you break your truck, you can't get the truck or the trailer back home.
Well,
Is it exponential? I don't know.
I mean, the nice thing about the small trailers, like Turtleback specifically, is there's a lot of neat camping that you can, especially out west, where you can set up, leave it,
Yeah.
go bum around. In Colorado, I've a number of times thought, geez, I really wish I just was dumping a trailer someplace and could come back here and not have to set my shit up every
Yeah, like
day.
the kitchen, the tent, and all that. Again, yeah, same.
yeah,
I've been on some trips where,
yeah.
I've absolutely wished I had that going on.
yeah. And, we're talking about like the people we respect, like we maybe like obviously there's not confusion like there is overlanding off-roading, but the adventure moto guys, like that is something, if it wasn't for just like the investment, I would be really tempted because I enjoy two wheels, and I have seen some big old bikes taken through some gnarly spots, and there's some YouTube channels where it's like, holy crap, like this dude had an 1100 and a prayer, like
Yeah, if I could talk my wife into that, I'd be in. But she just is like,
It's a death trap.
well, no, I mean, she's just like, you've got 3 kids at home, and
Yeah.
you need to be able to pay the mortgage next week.
yeah.
I need
that's
we need to be
fair.
able to pay the mortgage next week.
That's a level-headed
I
approach.
can't have you dead, so
Yeah.
you need to wait until whatever. I don't know. It's I don't know if it's level-headed or not, but for sure that has kept me from executing against that because again, same thing. I like a bike real well, but
about once a month I look at like some 650s and like, oh, I could put some boxes on this thing, pretty lightweight camp setup, and you can cover a lot of ground. You do a lot of
that would be great for single person travel for sure.
Yeah.
It would be. I could totally be into that.
Oh, yeah, and I mean I feel like they're at the spirit of things. So that crew is doing the same thing that your hardcore overlanders are, and
yeah, no, I
you get some
love it.
cross pollination, but I think at the end of the day they're very separate.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I could totally get into that. I just at this point would have to get divorced.
I don't know if it's worth that.
I'm not really ready for that.
You just get a bike and keep it at my house.
That's true. You just hide it.
Yeah. And I'll get a bike and keep it at your house. Holy crap. What do you think the chances Brandy and Liz listen to this podcast are?
For Liz, it's probably pretty low. So
Same.
I don't know about Brandy, but
Yeah.
I'm going to guess that Liz is not listening.
Yeah.
Pretty sure my wife is not. It's not the viewership.
No. Who do you want to get a bike and keep it at my house? We like a rotation. Yeah.
Just borrowing it.
No. You're like they will never know that you own it. You drive to my house, get on your helmet, everything stays there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If it lives at your house the whole time, I might be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
No
Rick
one-
drives to my house. You drive to Rick's house. I'll drive to yours.
We all meet back in the truck. Then we go on right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not bad.
I watched like a heist movie that was similar to that once. They were robbing a bank, but same idea.
Yeah, same
That's
concept.
facts.
So yeah, I think we have a varied experiences here with like off-roading and overlanding and stuff, but I think we agree that again, it's part of semantics. As long as you're enjoying what you're doing,
Yeah,
and if you're,
that's what matters.
I just want to say, if you feel like you need to tell someone on the internet that they're doing something wrong, maybe you should become a teacher, because then you get to tell people they're doing something wrong all the time.
Good
Like
call. Yeah.
don't hit enter on the comment. Instead, find an online teaching degree and put your application in.
Yeah, no, there's something to be said for that. Like I said, the couple I had recently read, and I for the most part, kind of stay off of.
Yeah.
I mean, I obviously don't ever comment on anything
You
hard,
just
but
stumbled upon it this time.
well, no, I was just scrolling through something and saw the picture of this high lift jack, and it's like, oh wow, that's a pretty good idea. Soft shackle, done that like this and done it a little different, or done, and they're like, oh, it's gonna, the edges can cut them. I'm like, it's a soft shackle, man. We're gonna run it till it breaks, and if she breaks, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
That's what it's for.
Matter of fact, it's way cooler when they break versus a regular old school shackle.
Right. I mean,
Which
it,
also break.
yeah. I mean, it's just like, like I said, it was just like,
Yeah.
this is not, that's a pretty nifty idea, pretty good use of it. Like I said, I've done similar things and was like, oh, it's well, you're brave for posting that shit because there's going to be somebody
Yeah.
telling you. And then I read the comments. I'm like, oh God, there's a million people telling you what a terrible idea that is. And you're like, the number of things that people don't, and having tested some of this, right? So Honestly, 7P has like all the test data in the world. So if you
Yeah.
really, and I don't know whether they publish it or not, but they put a load cell on all kinds of stuff, and
Yeah.
and I've done that a little bit enough now that it's interesting. Like honestly, you can be really stuck, and as long as the wheels are turning, when you run the winch, you really don't pull that much.
Yeah.
Like it's amazing how stuck you can be and put a load cell on it and how many pounds you need to get out
Yeah.
as long as the wheels are turning.
That crew really does approach it from a scientific standpoint.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that it's not all theoretical to them. Like they've done it.
Yeah.
Like,
No, but like I said, I've gotten stuck and had load cell with me and be like, yeah, let's hook this thing up
Yeah.
and put a pulley on it and see what it actually pulls at the winch and see how hard we're really. And the reality is, I'm working the equipment so much less than you would think you would be that I was amazed.
Yeah.
Every time I put a load cell on something, I've been like, oh, geez, this is gonna be killing it. And then I'm like, well, geez, that was only 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
I've got an 8,000 pound winch, a couple thousand pounds. This wasn't.
Yeah.
I didn't work anything. It's in the winch is slowed down and it's working a little bit, and you're like, oh, you must be in. You're not.
Not necessarily. Yeah.
Not near as much as you think you are, and
That.
stressors on. It was like, oh, this. And that the scenario this was. It was like, oh, that sharp edge could cut the. And I'm like, it's got a sheath on it. Like the amount of effort it would really take, like
Yeah.
sliding to cut it, is probably a lot, like way more than you think, because you haven't. Excuse me. You haven't worn out a soft shackle, right? I mean, like I don't know that I've gotten rid of a couple that I was just like, yeah, this thing's been around too long, and like,
Yeah.
but I use shop.
Catastrophic.
Yeah, I use them all the time. I mean, I use them on tractors. I use them everywhere. Like I keep 2 on a tractor. I keep them in the truck. I keep them everywhere.
I think that goes back to like the abrasion resistance. We had a conversation the other day about like sometimes people are like, why don't you make your bag out of this? What 500D can do is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And,
I mean,
the same thing with the soft shackle. Like, can you cut it? Yes. Is it going to cut? It's going to take a really long time.
yeah. Or how much could it hold when it's cut?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you'll see a strap where somebody's using it and it's got maybe it's an eighth cut, or it's got an eighth of its cut or a quarter of its cut, and you're like, oh, holy crap, that thing, it still probably holds quite a bit of weight, honestly. You know what I mean? Like I mean, I'm not saying that isn't now the weak link.
Yeah.
And you should
But
retire it after that trip.
100%. I mean, it should have been retired before. But you know what I mean? Like, I've just watched
If the
people
option's getting out or not.
Right. Yeah. If that's your backup to your backup's backup and you needed it, like,
Yeah.
I'll probably put it in the system and find out what it does,
Oh,
and
I
just
think I'm out again, CT. Sorry.
make sure that.
There you
Oh, there we go.
go.
Make sure that I'm not in a position where somebody's going to get hurt if
Yeah.
it fails. That's the kicker. Like,
Two-
how do you stay out of the way?
two kind of cases. I know we're kind of getting to our regular runtime here. You reminded me of a video I saw that a guy posted who was very much overlanding, and he had a mistake that's easy to make. He dropped a tire on a really soft trail. Looked like he was like a P&W maybe,
Yeah.
like a real loamy soil.
Yeah.
And flopped his GX into a creek that was in the ditch. Well, he was by himself. And so he actually ran up at not a super ideal angle, but ran his winch up to a tree,
Yeah.
and then came back through with a snatch block
Uh-huh.
and pulled that thing back up and fired her up and like drove home. And same thing on the video. There were some people like, you should have done this, you should have done that, and yeah, but like what he did worked. Nobody got hurt. Relatively little damage. I was mostly impressed that he was snorkel side down in the creek and that thing fired right up. I
Yeah.
was like, man, you just waterboarded a GX. Like,
And she came back to life.
yeah, with just no problem. But yeah, and again, it was like, okay, ideal? No. Did it work? Yes. Now we all learned something.
Right.
Instead of like trying to like tell him, what's he gonna do? Hop in his time machine and head back to that recovery situation and being like, thanks, commenter XYZ123. I'm gonna do it this way.
Right.
No, that's not an option.
And the other thing is that commenter XYZ has probably never fucking done it.
Yeah, that
one
is.
F word I got. Damn.
Yeah.
I don't know if I got the other one, but for sure I got that one. But that's always my, like, how many times have you had to pull a cable? How many times have how many times have you done this? How many times have you been in any situation where you have to recover something or move something or drag something?
Yeah.
Like, it's
I will say my personal experience is that the people that are taking that much time to comment are usually the people that have that time because they're not out doing much. Not even in overlanding, bush.
Just in everything.
Yeah, bushcraft world, like you shouldn't be using, and it's like, then you check their channel and it's 45 videos of them like reviewing a knife by holding it up in their living room,
Yeah.
like, yeah. And then the other thing too, and this is what irks me, is I'm very
Don't
strategic.
baton with that.
Yeah, strategic empathy is people that make comments and they don't even think about like, that may turn somebody off from the hobby, which that's my main goal is I want people to get out and enjoy this.
Yeah.
There was a case like just a week or so ago where an acquaintance of mine commented somebody, made a comment to them about like, oh, you shouldn't be doing this, like whatever. And it was like, yeah, man, maybe you should just keep your mouth shut. Like
The other thing that gets you is then the people that do stuff don't say anything.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's the same. Like I'll never post anything because I'm not going to argue with you because I don't give a crap.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
don't care. And not that I necessarily have valuable information, but if it's something that I know about, I'll look at it and be like, I'm not helping, because I just don't need to deal with the next group of people who haven't been there and haven't done that, telling me what I should have,
Yeah.
that you didn't do it right. Well, I'm back.
Yeah.
I'm here. I've lived to tell the tale
Yeah.
of.
It's called science. Look it up.
Right. Yeah. It's like the opposite of the green, right? Live to tell the tale.
Yeah.
What the hell?
And I don't know. That's the part that irks me is that like if some troll is like browbeating somebody enough that they're like, oh, forget it. I'm just not even gonna share my adventures
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah.
That's
100%.
Yeah, that's what.
You get a lot of that. You get people with that probably have something to offer that just stay the hell out of it. I mean, look at the number of people who do training and do stuff like that. That just are never going to participate.
Mm-hmm.
Never going to participate in it because there's always some idiot out there saying, "Oh, that's not the right way to do it," and "Oh, this is the way you should have done it," and here's what the drawings on the fucking board say. Because
I love. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking out on his name, and I apologize. We'll put it in the show notes. The guy that used to work at Biltmore with the Land Rover experience, he's doing his own thing now.
Okay.
His
I
account
know you're talking about.
cracks me up because people, he'll be like, taking some people out, and there was like a Rivian. And of course, all these people are like, oh, electric, it's not going to be able to, it's crap. You'll never be able to survive the trail, like these naysayers. It's like 3 days later, they're back from this like training session where they have like absolutely ran this Rivian through some holes, and stuff like that. It's like,
Heck yeah.
It's weird. It's like it's his job or something,
Almost like he was a really good off-road guy.
Yeah.
He actually knows what he's doing. Yeah. No, but I mean, again, going back to that's somebody who probably isn't commenting or isn't talking about stuff who we could all probably learn something from if he, I don't know. But that drives
If
me
he
crazy
spoke up
because
or if we just paid a little closer attention and listened or whatever.
Yeah. The proof is in the pudding, and sometimes the pudding is a mud hole.
Yeah.
The proof's in the chocolate pudding.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's interesting. You get like that with everything.
Yeah.
You get that, you look at wiring something and somebody be like, oh, you shouldn't have. And you're like, shut up.
Yeah.
Everyone
knows wiring's magic.
It is. The key is keep the smoke in the wires.
Yeah.
That's the only important part.
I was shooting a walk around this guy's rig, and he didn't have a big electrical build out, and you could tell he was not a full-on electrician, and he had run like the live, feed power for whatever the lights or whatever through the switch. And like the conventional wisdom is you shouldn't do that. You should have a solenoid that controls it with lower voltage.
Relay,
have a relay.
Yep.
And that kind of thing. But should I get up in his face and tell him he's doing it wrong? He looked like he was aware of what he was doing and was pretty smart about it. And I'm like, if he was running something, if he was trying to run a winch through power through a switch, yeah, I might say something. But I don't know. Like.
Yeah.
The reality is, if you knew the load that the switch was rated for, and you knew the load that the light was, it may be an acceptable thing.
It could have all been in specs, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut.
As long as it was fused, it might be fine.
See, and that's.
I mean, I put relays on stuff, but like I said, if it was fused properly, and the switch was rated to manage the amount of amps that were going through it, then
Plus,
you
we
know.
all know it's always the ground that's the problem.
Right. All electrical problems always are around. Doesn't matter what it is.
I once had a problem with the ground that I couldn't find.
No.
Couldn't find the ground. That was the
Right,
issue.
right.
Yeah.
But no, 100%. Every electrical problem is the ground.
Yeah.
It's always the ground. It's always the background.
CT, you nailed it right there. Like, you just kept your mouth shut. Like, I think sometimes people feel like they've got to police their interest, and I don't know if it's like an ego boost, but if that's where you're getting your ego
Plus,
boost.
if that burns to the ground and we can catch it on video, it's going to be kind of cool.
That's good. That's good content, man.
Yeah.
I'm rolling
Kidding.
camera on that.
Kidding. Please don't. I'm not.
We sell a
Put
fire
your keyboards
extinguisher.
down.
Right.
We
Yeah.
still have a couple of fire extinguisher pouches, though, that can help
Right.
in
So
that
if you've
situation.
wired your light straight to the switch and you're overloading that switch and it gets a little warm now and then, get a fire extinguisher.
Yeah, and then put it in one of our pouches.
Right. Put it in one of our pouches.
Actually, let's
Maybe
be
we could
honest.
relay-
If it's a vehicle fire, get 2 fire extinguishers and get 2 fire extinguisher pouches, because
Yeah, that's going to be bad.
when vehicles go, they tend to go.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I only had one that scared me.
Yeah.
Vehicle fire.
There's just a lot of flammable things, and so I like to have a backup fire extinguisher.
Yeah, at that point I didn't have a fire extinguisher, but old carbureted trucks can do some funny shit sometimes, Well, this one would hoof a little backfire. But, occasionally she'd create some flame doing it.
So yeah, I mean, man, I think we came up with some good stuff. It's just don't be a jerk on the internet.
Is that where we landed?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
This started out over now. It's not be a jerk
Yeah.
on the internet.
Well,
And we're really excited about the
Overlander.
new giant pizza shop. that
Oh
came in.
yes, oh man,
See,
guys,
it's just for you.
we have a. It's not even like Benny's is special, but Benny's isn't that special because there's a ton of location.
Yeah.
We had one in Roanoke, but you know what's great? We have one 11 minutes from the shop. now.
Right.
And if you're listening, first off, you should be watching it because you need to see, folks, the Benny's pizza.
it's as big as this table.
Yeah, the box closed would cover the majority of this table, and you need to be careful when you go pick one up because there's easily back seats that they won't fit in. It is 28 inches across without the box.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
One
You
slice
need one slice for a meal.
is a two plater. I could do 2.
You can do 2.
I did a
If
1
you're
and a
real
half
out there.
yesterday. Came back to work.
I was thinking 28. What is it? 28 minutes for a whole pizza?
Yeah,
I'd
Brandy.
have to work out a little bit, but I think I could get.
Brandy just has to do that when she's not there.
You do that when she's not
Yeah,
there.
28 minutes to eat a 28-inch pizza to win $280. That
I mean, that's decent money a minute.
yeah. And the pizza's thin. The
How
crust-
often do you have to do that? Like, could you could you do that twice a week and not work for a living? Is the pizza free too on top of it?
I think so.
Yeah, can you win it more than one time?
I
she's
did
really
today.
good.
These things because
Oh,
if I could manage that like
I just died.
twice a week and I wouldn't have to, that would be my lunch, dinner, and everything.
You're also saving a lot of money on food.
right.
I do appreciate, and Z, feel free to cut this, but also you're welcome. That they pay $280 to an amateur, but only $100 to a professional eater, and they say in the rules online that they reserve the right to take up to 3 days to research if you're a professional eater. It's like, wow. I appreciate the
They've
homework.
had a lot of people take them up on this.
Yeah.
Apparently.
So I'm not a professional eater, so as you go looking me up,
I'm what they call it, dark horse.
I'm not. I'm
He
not.
came out of nowhere.
I have not gone pro. I've been an amateur eater for most of my life.
I would like to say this. If you're the type of person that likes hard trails or you just like to get out and camp in cool places, like you can find like-minded people in this community and you
Yeah.
can find friends. And don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Like,
And don't get on our page and be stupid.
yeah.
I'm just as a
That
thought.
too.
No,
Like,
actually-
100%.
Rick's feeling violent.
When this goes live, bring your best. I'll need your mother's maiden name and your first pet's name to be in each of those comments. So,
Where is this? I'm ready to fight with my keyboard.
yeah, you can ask these guys. Sometimes in the office, I have some.
He's like, oh, this is another joker on the internet.
I have a
Oh, he's
talent.
grinding my gears.
I can make people cry with my words.
I do not have that talent, let's be clear. At least not on the
Yeah.
keyboard, because I
Yeah.
can't type fast enough, spell well enough.
See you guys next week. Hope you had fun. Bye.